I could conquer the whole of them with 50 men and govern them as I pleased.
When these folks came here, they didn't understand. They didn't really take the time. Their intention wasn't to understand what are these Native people about, how do they live, what are their rules, like what does their society say? That's not what they did. They came and they were like, well, look at all this land, like we can build this here and we can build that there. And Native folks' nature was to go like, hey, like, yeah, you can share this with us. There's plenty for everybody. It's all good.
Of anything they have, if you ask them for it, they never say no. Rather, they invite the person to share it and show as much love as if they were giving their hearts. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want.
The Catholic Church created this thing called the Doctrine of Discovery, which said that any Christians going into heathen lands had title to the land, that the heathens couldn't have title because they weren't Christians. It was their God-given not only right, but responsibility to develop those lands, take from those lands as they see fit through violence, right? It was like, I can force you to do what I want you to do, so therefore I'm superior.
And so in 1819, the federal government adopted a civilization policy. If Native peoples could accomplish certain moral and intellectual skills, that they in fact could be included in this great new project known as the Young United States.
The pressure was coming in because the Europeans would just come and they would just squat on the tribes' lands, or they would try to fight with the people. So the United States began to sign treaties, and the tribes would give up some land.
But none of these agreements come without the coercion of violence. Here's the best deal I'm going to give you. Otherwise, I'm going to kill your children.
Each of these tribes is under pressure to civilize.
You're saying, all right, maybe if I just do it, we as a community can still operate in our space.
If they learn English, if men farm and women take on domestic pursuits,
learn to become plantation owners and produce commodity crops such as cotton.
Hey, if you just grow cotton and take on, chattel slavery, you'll be fine. We'll leave you alone.
But it was always more of a promise than an actual real possibility.
So in some ways, it's a life or death choice, right? Not only your physical life and death, but your cultural life and death, your spiritual life and death. All these things are at risk.
My name is Eliza Whitmire. I was born in slavery in the state of Georgia. My parents having belonged to a Cherokee Indian who owned a large number of slaves. But I was too young to remember how many he owned.
What we see happening over time is that Native Americans, some, start purchasing Africans and African Americans as property, as slaves, much like Euro-Americans are doing. Embracing and adopting an ideology of racial hierarchy, right? That says people of African descent are less than.
And so we have to sit with the choices that our ancestors made that maintained our nation, but compromised other human beings' dignity and freedom.
I was about 5 years old when President Andrew Jackson ordered General Scott to proceed to the Cherokee country in Georgia with 2,000 troops and remove the Cherokees by force to the Indian Territory.
Because the production of cotton is so profitable, there's a push to push Native Americans off their land, to increase property ownership for white American men.
Southerners are coveting the collective wealth of Native people. Native peoples have adapted to this system, and they're doing quite well. So they resent that Native people are as wealthy or wealthier than most Southerners. And so this is also where a racial element comes into it too, because how dare Native people, non-white people, have more material advantages than white people.
So now you got to move. I know we said what we said, but you can't do anything about it, so get to stepping.